Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about an emerging technology that's dramatically reshaping enterprise IT, multi-cloud computing. Multi-cloud offers enormous advantages, but is full of challenges for companies. To provide insight into that, I'm joined by a very special guest. With me is Rajiv Ramaswami, President and Chief Executive Officer of Nutanix. Rajiv, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here with you today, James.
I want to talk about multi-cloud, and I wouldn't normally do this, but I think it's really interesting in this case to talk about the Nutanix product offering first, because I think this sheds a lot of light on what's happening with cloud and multi-cloud these days. I mean, we know that the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Platform delivers the advantages of public clouds to company data centers. So in other words, correct me if I'm wrong, the Enterprise Cloud Platform lives in in-house data centers, but it really works for multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. Enlighten us, please, Rajiv. What exactly does Nutanix do?
Yeah, so clearly, James, we started out really breaking silos across compute, storage, and networks within data centers to build a software-defined platform that brings all of this together and delivers cloud platform, right? Just as you said, that's where we got started. Now, we've gone from being a HCI cloud platform provider on-prem to a hybrid multi-cloud platform provider. What that means today is, when customers use our platform, they think of cloud as an operating model where they can run their applications anywhere they choose to, whether it's on-prem in their own data centers or in the public clouds of their choice. So our platform today extends, right, and provides a seamless experience, whether you want to be in AWS, and now we're just coming out with our Azure offering, and of course, also on-prem. So think of us as delivering infrastructure as a service cloud platform where customers can run their applications using on our platform, whether it be traditional applications, modern applications, wherever they choose to like to run them at, right? Where they want to run them in their data centers, great. If they want to run them in the public cloud, we make it easy. One set of tools, one set of operating procedures, make it simple.
Really interesting. So in other words, a certain company based in, Dubuque, Iowa, they might have a Nutanix instance there in their remote data centers. Is that Nutanix platform also, they have their own Nutanix instance in, say, the AWS cloud, and the two instances are talking to each other?
Exactly. They're all logically managed as one single entity, right? You can have your clusters of compute running wherever you'd like to. I'll give you some use cases if you'd like to dive in a little bit here,
Please.
right? So,
yes, please.
So, for example, last quarter we talked about one of our customers, Landsend, a retail company, right?
Right.
And so, like every other retailer, they have a peak demand during the holiday season, starting around Thanksgiving. And so, what they do is they run our platform as a cloud platform on-prem, but during the holiday season, they need more capacity, and they use our platform seamlessly in AWS to deliver the capacity for them. This way, they don't have to retrain their people. It's the same tooling, same operations, same IT teams managing everything, seamless. And then, of course, when they don't need it after the holiday season, they can stop. That's just one example. The other example we see a lot happening is disaster recovery. We've talked about multiple companies and provide lots of examples of companies where they're running their primary workloads on-prem, but using the public cloud as a disaster recovery site. Again, very attractive because you're only paying for capacity when you need it, not all the time.
That first, I'm sorry, go ahead, yes.
The last use case I would just say is there is cloud migration. There's the people who might want to get out of data centers entirely and move to the public cloud. And the easiest way to do that is by using the same platform on both ends. And you can seamlessly migrate your applications from your on-prem data center into the public cloud. And we've had lots of examples of people doing that as well.
That first use case is really interesting in that, the company may want to scale up for the holidays a certain period and then scale back down, and they're getting some help from Nutanix doing that. They're using AWS. I know that some companies are using the hyperscalers in that way without necessarily using Nutanix or another player. What is Nutanix offering in that particular instance that they wouldn't get from just the hyperscalers alone?
I think the key is the two words, hybrid and multi-cloud, right? So the first, hybrid, implies that you can actually operate on-prem and in the public cloud, right? Using the exact same tooling, right? Same infrastructure, same platform, no changes to your applications. Multi-cloud means that you can actually pick your cloud partner of choice, right? You're not locked into, say, one of the cloud providers, whether it be AWS or whether it be Azure, right? You can pick and choose where you want to run your workloads. So largely, if you're a hyperscaler, you're focusing on running everything in your own cloud. And of course, you can provide capacity expansion as needed, right? You provide on-demand services, that's for sure, right? But can you provide the flexibility on-prem and in the public cloud and other people's public clouds? Well, that's what we do uniquely at Nutanix.
All right, so that explains why you refer to the cloud as an operating system, not just a destination.
Correct, exactly. It's an operating model, right? It's you want, if you're a company, you want to be running your infrastructure in a cloud mode, which is everything is automated, everything is agile, it's software defined, but you're not locked into any particular location, right? You want to be flexible to run wherever you want to run.
All right, so Nutanix is focusing on multi-cloud, which obviously is an extremely big growth area. What are some typical challenges for companies using multi-cloud, and what advice do you give them to help them?
So this might be a good place. We actually do a survey every year. We call it the Enterprise Cloud Index of our customers, about 1,700 plus IT decision makers globally. And we ask them this exact same question. And the answers, here's what came back, right? So the first thing is, multi-cloud is an IT operating model where people are using multiple clouds, public and private. And it's the most commonly deployed IT environment today. So the top challenges that people talk about, they worry about security. They worry about data integration. They worry about how much they're spending, just even having visibility and the ability to manage the cost and operating across all of these environments. Now, and they're probably roughly, a good, but roughly about, 49% talk about security as a challenge, about 49% talk about data integration, and about 43% talk about cost. Now, most of them, vast majority of them agree that if you want to succeed with multi-cloud, they need to think about how they can have simpler management across these mixed cloud infrastructures, because every one of these platforms is different, right? Dissimilar platforms, dissimilar tools, dissimilar dashboards, different ways to configure, different security policies. And so it becomes very complicated for a single company to manage across all of these. And having a degree of consistency there helps. And so if you look at that, then the natural thing, if you look at the survey data, it shows 83% of people say that, well, hybrid multi-cloud model makes sense and it's ideal for these types of use cases.
Well, I think that it sort of brings me to a question I've talked with a lot of experts about, the idea of having a single pane of glass for a company to manage multiple clouds. In other words, there's some company that they're working with Azure, with AWS, probably with Oracle, and they're having to work with each company individually. Will there ever be a thing called a single pane of glass where they're able to manage all of them from in-house?
Yeah, in fact, at our last user conference, our .next conference, which we had late in the fall, this is exactly what we showed. We showed the single pane of glass where a company could, again, to show this, cloud as an operating model, where a company could look at and manage clusters in a uniform way across wherever they resided, whether they were in Azure, whether they were in AWS, whether they were in their own on-prem data centers. So from the perspective of infrastructure delivered as a service, whether it be for VM or containers, we can do that, right? Provide that single pane of glass, single set of tools, single visibility, the ability to go point and deploy clusters anywhere, the ability to migrate clusters and applications from one of these areas to the other. And that's exactly what we do at a platform level for infrastructure, right? Of course, but we also recognize that infrastructure by itself is one major component, but not everything, right? And so there's other tooling that customers will probably need on top to handle other services, right? Higher level services.
You talked about moving applications, and sometimes, cloud experts will say, oh, no, there is no such thing as application mobility. It's really a myth. And, once you get set up with a certain provider, a certain application, you're stuck there. Would you agree with that or not necessarily?
I think the answer is it depends.
Okay.
So it depends on how you orchestrate that application. So for example, we talked about a large real estate company that was able to get out of their data center entirely and migrate their applications as is to AWS using our platform, right? And they were able to do that within a month. And so those are applications, and the reason they were able to do that is these applications are running on our platform. And as long as the underlying platform is the same, which it is for us in AWS, then the migration is very simple. It's just simply moving those workloads. On the other hand, if you were to go deploy an application in a pure cloud native and you use a set of services that are unique to a particular cloud provider,
right,
then it's very difficult to move that application. So it depends.
Right. Okay. I totally get that. I mean, I guess if it did become really, mobile, it would help with negotiation. I think a lot of companies want to be able to play the hyperscalers off each other, but they can't, or they can sometimes. You say it depends, but if we ever reach this world where it really becomes true mobility, I guess that would require the hyperscalers to really match offerings with each other, pretty much A to B, which might not ever happen. It would actually help with negotiating between the various hyperscalers. Do you see that happening?
Look, again, I think uh, I don't necessarily see consistency in services happening across cloud providers at all, right? In fact,
Yeah.
every cloud provider tries to create value by delivering unique sets of services.
Hmm.
But customers have choice, right? They can decide at the time they're building an application as to what they want. Do they want that application to be portable or not? And if they do want to have portability, they can design that upfront when they build their application. And if they
Hmm.
design it, then it absolutely is portable and can be made portable across cloud providers. On the
Hmm.
other hand, if you make a choice of saying, well, I just want to use all the services that the cloud provider uses, and I want to go build that app as quickly as I can and get it out there, then you're also making perhaps a de facto decision saying, well, that app is going to reside there forever.
Hmm. Interesting.
So there's a choice, and I think part of this leads to you have to be thoughtful about how you plan to use these clouds and what you want to use them for and what each cloud represents.
Hmm. Well, I would really love to get your sense of the future of multi-cloud. Being where you are in the position you're in, where do you see the future of multi-cloud going in the next few years, and how can companies prepare for it now?
Yeah, I think multi-cloud is a reality today for
Hmm.
almost every company that's going digital and they want to use these clouds. And in fact, surveys after surveys have shown that more and more companies use more than one public provider, right, cloud
Right,
provider,
right.
and also have their on-prem environment. So they're living in this hybrid multi-cloud environment where workloads reside everywhere. And this is why we keep going back to our cloud as an operating model. So I think multi-cloud is here to stay. I think there's growing recognition that you will be operating in this environment. There's also growing recognition of the some of the factors that you talked about, for example, cost and what cost looks like. And there was an Andreessen Horowitz white paper early last year that talked about the cost of operating in the cloud at scale and how companies are looking at that. It's very easy to get onboarded. It's very easy to get started, but then you have to think about steady state operating costs as well.
Hmm.
And so having this choice of hybrid multi-cloud, I think, gives you the flexibility to really decide what's the right way to use these clouds. So I think multi-cloud is here to stay. People are going to operate in a cloud-like world, and we have to keep thinking about cloud being an operating model rather than one location that you're going to be putting your apps at.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the big attitude shift there. Rajiv, I think you've said it. It was fascinating. I think the multi-cloud sector will be a very interesting one to follow in the years ahead. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today.
No, lovely. Thank you so much, James, for having me on the show.